Vernon Speak Sports Auburn breaking SEC news. What's up, YouTube? Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking a little SEC sports. I really like this because it gives me the opportunity to talk about other intriguing teams in the SEC. I actually had a series going on Facebook where I talked about the big three. This was back in 2017 where Alabama and Georgia and Auburn were pretty much duking it out. And I consistently talked about the big three of the SEC, and it came to pass. Auburn beat Alabama and Georgia in epic fashion in November of 2017, then met Georgia in the SEC championship. Probably should have beat Georgia, I think. And it's no shade to guys like Brian Allen, who always gets offended when I talk about anything negative about Georgia. But I think, you take away a few turnovers, you take away a few missed opportunities in the first half. I think Auburn wins that game, not necessarily in similar fashion to the first one, but probably should have beat Georgia 2 times in a row, because I think even from a mentality standpoint, Auburn was pushing the envelope to get Georgia in that mental state like, damn, that 40-17, because I'm pretty sure it was a scar. You get beat 40-17. This team is starting to move the ball on you in the same manner in which they did again. You're like, oh, man, we about to get our asses kicked again. But turnover by Jarrett Stidham. Kerryon Johnson actually had a turnover midway through the third quarter. Georgia hits a field goal, and then the race down the field by DeAndre Swift really put the nail in the coffin for Auburn. Auburn loses 28-7 in the SEC championship game, and then goes on to lose to UCF in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. I thought that's a game that Auburn should have won as well. But either way, when we talk about SEC players, former SEC players, I think we would be remiss to not mention Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is easily one of the most talented players out of the state of Georgia, coming in 2018. As a matter of fact, he came in that same class with the quarterback out of Clemson, Trevor Lawrence. And, if it were me picking out of the two, I actually would, from a collegiate standpoint, I would actually pick Justin Fields. Good arm, good vision, very mobile, knows how to balance mobility and pro style. I really like Justin Fields as a quarterback. I really thought that he would have actually taken Georgia's offense to the next level. However, they already had a 5-star recruit there in Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm got the job done. It's kind of a hard sell, though, guys. Let's look at this from a coach's standpoint. It's a really hard sell to have a 5-star quarterback that takes over in 2017, that takes over for Jacob Eason, who is also a 5-star quarterback, by the way, an injury, takes over, leads an SEC team in a comeback from behind win against Oklahoma, beats a team in the SEC championship that throttled him 3 weeks earlier, and lost an Alabama game that in that national championship that really wasn't his fault. It's just a hard sell to dethrone a guy like that. Now, here's what I will say. You got to think roster management, and I don't think Kirby Smart and his squad did a good enough job of thinking roster management. You got to figure out some red shirt. You got to figure out something to preserve this kid's eligibility, because a waste a year on him doing Wildcats and all this other stuff was an absolute waste of time. And then the following year, he just decides to make the transfer, citing some type of injustices or racial stuff. But either way, he figured out a way to become immediately eligible at Ohio State. Now, did some incredible things at Ohio State, which is absolutely crazy At Ohio State, record 13-1, threw for 3,273 yards at 67.2%, ran for another 484 yards, which makes him a pretty legitimate dual threat. He was also the third ranking on the Heisman Trophy list at Ohio State. So let's just say this. Justin Fields was, at least statistically, as good as advertised. Would he have been able to do the same thing at Georgia? That is a very hypothetical thing in nature. So, let's get to the meat of this conversation. The Big Ten decides not to play football this year. A lot of talented players are not going to be able to put their show in action. Justin Fields is actually spotted at a Georgia scrimmage. And Twitter was blowing up. I'm talking about the media was absolutely blowing up about this. And because I'm such a systematic person and I know procedures and things like that, I didn't think much of it. One, the guy's from Georgia. Two, dude has connections, friends that still play ball. Like these guys, they do form some level of camaraderie. Now, if it was a situation where there weren't transfer issues as far as stipulations, then I would be like, oh, okay, Justin Fields is trying to come back. But I can't legitimately say that because of the procedural nature of that. Okay? So, we put a lot of stock in Justin Fields coming back to Georgia. Not sure about that. I do know there was a lot of disdain on Justin Fields' part with Ohio State with the Big Ten shutting things down. And rightfully so. One of the best college football players in America is not going to get to play this year. So I would think that would be a huge problem. But I don't think his visit to Georgia scrimmage game, Georgia scrimmage game, is going to lead to a transfer back to Georgia. I think that would be absolutely entertaining if it was. But at this point, Justin Fields' hands is tied. I mean, it's unfortunate. And, Ohio State didn't project that the pandemic would cause this type of thing to happen. I'm pretty sure the officials at Ohio State actually want to play football, but they're bound by a conference that decided, nope, we can't do it. So this is SEC news here on a very humid Wednesday morning. So go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, but we're talking about SEC football. Take care.